Hey everybody, Boris, BK Forex. Welcome to our weekly technicals for Euro dollar, dollar yen, pound dollar for April 24 through April 28, 2017. The very, very auspicious week, of course, because we have the French elections starting the week, Sunday night to us, Monday morning to you guys, and we will be watching that, of course, very carefully because that could set the tone for the euro and really for the whole currency market pretty much going forward. The critical thing here, of course, as the French elections go, is Marine Le Pen. She's the key right-wing candidate that wants to take the France out of the Eurozone and out of the euro. And she has been leading in the polls, or second leading in the polls, as we go into the close. The big critical question is, of course, a super positive result for the euro is if Le Pen simply gets shut out of the second round. If Macron and Fillon, or even Mélenchon, doesn't even matter, just simply Le Pen out of the second round, massively positive for the euro. You could see a huge short covering rally or a big knee-jerk upside reaction, probably to 108, 109 right as we start. That's unlikely because her support seems to be pretty stable, and the more likely scenario, or at least the more likely unexpected scenario, is that she actually scores quite big. Let's say she scores around 30%, which is, I think, a critical number that the market is looking for as far as a big point of worry. And if that's indeed the case, then you see the euro really tumble out of bed, and we could be seeing 105 before Monday morning comes to an end. So we're going to be watching this very carefully. That's going to set the tone. But as the week progresses, the calendar brings other things to the forefront, not just the euro situation, but of course we have the ECB press conference coming up on Thursday. So it'll be interesting to see how, if there is a massive populist move in France, Mario Draghi reacts to the whole thing. If there isn't, what he's going to say. Most likely, if the situation is sort of relatively neutral, that is, let's say she makes it to the second round with Macron, Draghi is going to go out of his way to essentially not make any political comments, but will indubitably say that they're going to maintain easing conditions for quite a while. That's because inflation conditions in the Eurozone remain relatively tepid, and they've been actually saying that for quite a long time. Over the last couple of weeks, most of the ECB monetary authorities have been saying that they intend to keep the accommodation longer than what the market thinks. That should be relatively negative to the euro anyways. So there's a lot of potential here for the euro to get hit from all sorts of angles. We do have a little bit of German IFO, minor event really, of course, on Monday, especially given the French elections. And that's about it as far as the Eurozone goes. Now, onward, we also have a lot of event risk elsewhere. We have the BOJ policy rate decision, which, given the fact that yen has really strengthened materially by 5 yen since we had the last meeting, is probably going to only invite very, very, very dovish commentary out of Kuroda. Having said this, though, unless he actually puts up more accommodation, unless they actually commit to much greater investment from the central bank, it's kind of a situation where his dovish commentary could backfire and the yen could actually strengthen. Because at this point, the market is so negative, dollar yen, that unless he comes in and pours more monetary policy, more expansionary policy, which is just very, very hard to do because they've pretty much bought everything, done everything, expanded credit as much as they can, and they still haven't been able to reach the 2% target. But it's one of those kind of situations where what he says will matter much less than what he does, and if he doesn't do anything, we could see the yen actually strengthen counterintuitively to what he says. In addition to which, we have the GDP numbers coming out of both UK and US. Should be an interesting Friday as well at the end of the week because, of course, up to now, cable has been a massive, massive upside move because of the snap elections that Theresa May has called, which is very likely going to give conservatives a massive win and a huge majority in UK Parliament, and therefore much greater negotiation on Brexit. One of the interesting side stories here that could be very worthwhile to watch. If there is a big Frexit move, in other words, if there is a big populist vote that we see on Sunday, ironically enough, cable could see a bid as a safe haven harbor. What looked absolutely absurd just 6 months ago as far as leaving the Eurozone could look very prescient. So worthwhile watching cable as a relative strength trade if Marie Le Pen wins. So it's kind of one of those side things that nobody has really been talking about, but could be very well an interesting trade. US GDP likely going to be very low, so more pressure dollar yen to the downside. Let's take a look at how the levels are. Levels of just continuously in the euro has actually managed to stay steady around 107, but of course it faces much wider volatility envelope on Sunday, and we'll see how those levels can hold. 105 is going to be the first level of support for the euro if we go to the downside. Yen has just been nothing to the downside, and a strong populist vote in the eurozone is certainly going to pressure dollar yen to the downside. 107 is going to become the next level of support. Cable holding relatively well around this 128 level, needs to really push through 128.50 as the key resistance level, and then has a very serious chance of challenging this very key 130 level. Let's take a look at the charts here. You can see the euro, of course, on a longer term chart looks quite bullish. You have a series of higher lows, nice around the top. We held Sunday. The market is relatively sanguine, does not think it's going to be a terrible shock to the system. But if it is, it falls out of bed right here. All of this support goes by the wayside, I think, in the first hour of trade. And we'll be watching 105 as the key support level as we go forward. Now, dollar yen is just simply a slow, painful drip to the downside. We did come back above the 109s, excuse me, sort of through the 109s, came back up to kind of test it. But when you're looking at dollar yen here, it's just been one-way trade. It's been a sell the rally every time. The fact that we broke the 110s and haven't even come close to challenging the 110s, very negative. There may be a situation here where everything is hunky-dory. You know, France goes Macron, risk is on, dollar yen feels really good, and we could challenge 110, and then GDP surprises to the upside, and the whole idea that the Fed does a rate hike in June back on the table. That's a super, super benign scenario, and it could very well be, but it really would require a takeout of 110 to get very positive dollar yen. Until and unless that happens, you have to believe that every rally is a sell, and the 107 becomes the next support level here in the trade. Last but not least, cable, of course, big, massive breakout. One of the key things we love to look at technically, and this is generally an incredibly strong signal that I love to follow, is anytime you have a big volatility break, upside or downside. By big volatility, it's usually 2 to 3 times the regular normal 30-day trading range. So as you can see, here's a big volatility break of 300 points, right? You inevitably have at least a modicum of some continuation. So far, we haven't had the continuation. Sometimes it takes a very long time. Maybe it takes another week for continuation, but it's likely that we have continuation, and certainly 130 becomes the play, the trade in play as we go forward. So be watching all these things. It should be a very exciting, really, really interesting week, not just because of the euro, but because of all the other issues that are on the table this week. And I think we could be looking at much greater, much bigger ranges. Hopefully this will be a lot of fun for everybody. Happy trading. Boris, over and out.